This is my new build flat that I bought over 2 years ago. It's my first home and I bought it as a first time buyer on a shared ownership scheme. And this video is the culmination of my experience of a first time buyer buying a new build. And I've put together the top 5 things that I wish I knew before buying my first home. Before buying this place, I had been renting in London for just over 3 years and worked out that I had spent over £30,000 on rent over those 3 years, which was absolutely mind blowing. And it was at this moment that I decided I need to try and find somewhere to live in this very expensive capital city and have my own flat where I can pay down the mortgage and I can start to have my own place that I can call home. I was also getting a little bit tired of living with complete strangers and not truly having control over who I lived with and how the property also looked and decorating it on the inside. So how I did it? Well, I put a £40,000 deposit onto a shared ownership flat in London, meaning my share was £227,000 on a 40% shared ownership. The flat was also completely off plan, so I actually bought the flat and put the deposit down before I managed to see it in person. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Matt. I work for a bank by day, I invest in property on the side, and on this channel we explore all things money, finance and property investing to help people lead a more financially savvy life. So let's jump in and explore my top 5 things that I wish I knew before buying a new build house and home in the UK. So firstly is the new build premium. Now naturally, buying a brand new house that has never been lived in ever before comes with a premium. It's going to cost more. If you compared a 3-bedroom property that's old versus a brand new 3-bedroom home in the same town, same rough location, I can guarantee that the new build will be worth more money. And that's just the natural fact in the UK, is that they come with a premium. But it means that from a buyer's perspective, and especially from a first-time buyer's perspective, if you're paying over the kind of rough asking price in the area for a property, it means that it's going to take a good few years to kind of start to recoup that money and gain some value and equity in the property. This means that if there are any fluctuations in the property market, or there's a small crash or even a large crash, if you're buying a property that really is above the average in the area, then you could go into negative equity really quickly. And this is even more difficult with schemes like the Help to Buy loan, which you only have for around 5 years before you then need to start to pay it off. And usually you would do that by either refinancing the property or selling and moving somewhere else. And this is putting a lot of buyers into a really tricky situation because they don't have the money and the equity within the property to sell and make a decent profit, if anything. Or if not, then they'll make a loss. And they've somehow got to pay back this equity loan and still find somewhere to live in the future. It's a really tricky situation. So to bring this to life, if you bought a property that was £150,000 and then prices in the area fluctuated a little bit, and then your property was now worth £140,000, excluding all of the selling costs, legal fees, all of that stuff, you would need to find £10,000 plus then all the moving costs just to recoup that loss through the negative equity. And it's a real situation that a lot of people find themselves in. At the moment, since COVID and including Brexit as well, the new build market in London has been really stagnant since about 2016. There are small areas and little pockets of London that have had good fluctuations, but overall it's been pretty flat. This means that for people like me who bought a new build flat, haven't actually seen any capital appreciation or gain in the property, which for London historically is quite a mad or kind of bonkers thing to hear. So it's not the end of the world, and I'm not quite in negative equity, but I am definitely on that break-even line. I thought it would have gained more, but unfortunately it hasn't. The second thing I wish that I knew was defects. Now, naturally, houses are these big, huge, complex things that take a long time to build, and there are so many different bits and components that make up a house, with lots of different tradespeople doing all their different jobs and trying to bring this project all together into one finished product. Now, naturally, things are going to go wrong. You'll find defects, and within small new builds, you'll find settlement cracks, you'll find cracks in the ceiling, cracks in the walls, you'll find that things might not be plumbed in properly, you might have switches and electrics that don't quite work because the wiring has been done wrong. There are so many random things that could go wrong, and there are loads of brand new companies spawning that are new build property defect companies, and they'll actually go around your brand new home and inspect it for you to find all the things that are wrong, and they'll measure all of the different requirements to make sure that it meets building regulations. They'll make sure that things are straight, and actually you'll notice like a banister on some stairs, for example, might look straight to the eye, but when you measure it with a plumb line and you actually see what is straight compared to gravity, you'll find all of a sudden that actually you might have wonky walls, you might have wonky woodwork in the house, and this is where they'll come in and actually then work with the house builder to rectify those issues. But all of these naturally happen, and you'll have to deal with raising anywhere between 10, 20, even 30 different defects. And you need to have a keen eye on your property so that you know what you're looking for, so you can report all of the defects before the warranty and defect period ends. I've had some nasty defects in my property, and others are just kind of small nuances. But for example, when I first moved in, the pipe that fed the water main to my dishwasher was completely blocked with debris, and it was leaking everywhere and leaked all the way into the cupboard in the back of the kitchen, which caused a bit of a mess. I also had a sewer pipe in the bathroom that was the main stack that goes from the top all the way to the car park on the bottom floor. Bearing in mind I live on a 5th floor apartment, the soil stack had no cap on the top of it, so it meant that all of this sewer smells, not only from the sewer but also from everyone else's flats who share that main soil stack. All that gas and all those fumes were coming into the flat, and it smelled horrible, just because some lazy plumber didn't put a cap on the top of it to let all of the air kind of go in, but no air to come out. And another random thing that I spotted as well was that all of my thermostats for underfloor heating were all mixed up. So the bedroom here was heating up the living room was heating up the bathroom was heating up the second bedroom. And whoever, again, the plumbers did a terrible job clearly, but the plumbers who did that mixed up all the rooms, and therefore they were heating the wrong room, and it was just such a simple, easy mistake to make, but trying to find that was a problem was an absolute nightmare and took a lot of time. Thirdly is living in a building site. So for me, it wasn't too bad because I was part of a big kind of apartment and flat development complex in London, and the building works were a little bit further away compared to my block that was done in the very first phase. But if you're part of a brand new housing area with, say, 1,000 to 3,000 homes, you are going to be living in a building site. There's going to be a lot of dust, there's going to be a lot of mud around while they're still building all of the homes and houses around you, especially if you buy a house in the very first few phases of a brand new development. You're going to have potentially hundreds of builders mixing concrete, creating dust, storing wood, and just generally building work creates dust and mess. And all of the mud from the plant machinery is going to be all over the roads, so if you have a really nice car, your vehicle or car will be covered in loads of mud. It also means that you'll probably find yourself dusting the house multiple times every single week just to get rid of all that dust that has settled, because it's naturally in the air in that area for a good few years while the builders finish up. And the fourth thing is the cheap build quality of new build homes in the UK. It really is absolutely shocking. All of the big house builders, the big companies and the big names that you see only just about meet minimum standard. If you compare a amazing Grand Designs house to a Taylor Wimpey development, you'll notice a big difference. And what you notice is that big house builders tend to just tick the boxes for minimum compliance. So it's a really basic home, really cheap materials, and it just about ticks all the boxes to become accredited and certified by the NHCB. Now, when you compare it to Grand Designs and someone doing their own custom house, you have quality products, quality materials, and a lot of love and care goes into the build of that particular home. Whereas new builds are cheap, they're quick, they're easy, and unfortunately that is reflected in the quality. And you'll notice that things creak and everything just feels a little bit cheap. And it looks nice and the show homes look amazing and they spend a lot of money doing the interior design, but that's all to sell the homes in the first place. The government set really, really hard and harsh targets on the house builders, and obviously we know in the UK that every single year we're not hitting the minimum house building requirements. And all this does is put more pressure on the house builders to build even quicker, which means the quality goes down. If you imagine a triangle of fast, good and cheap, you can only really choose between the two of them, and that's what the house builders really struggle with. In 2014, the study is a little bit old now, but researchers at Cambridge University found that the average floor space in a brand new UK home is around 76 square meters, which is one of the smallest in Europe. And then you compare that with the other end of the spectrum, which is Denmark, who have some of the biggest houses at around 137 square meters on average. And that's a bit of a coincidence how Denmark is also one of the happiest countries in Europe as well. Maybe it's related, maybe it's not. One thing to call out though is that there are a lot of small SME developers in the UK. And often what you'll find with these smaller companies is that they do provide quality homes. So it's not that all new builds are bad quality, it tends to be just with the bigger house builders. So if you have a small SME developer, you might actually get a really nice, well done quality home. And fifth, and probably most important for me, is that leasehold and flats can be pretty rubbish. I live in an apartment complex and we have a gym, we have a concierge, which is really nice, we've got loads of garden areas, but it also means as a leaseholder that I don't own the land that this flat sits on. I instead own the space and occupy the flat itself, and that's what leasehold is. It also means that living in a flat that there are very extortionate service charges. When I started living in the flat, the service charges were around £210 a month, which is still quite a lot of money, and it's now going upwards of £260 to £300 a month just because of the escalating charges and costs to maintain the grounds, keep the gym going, even though gyms are closed at the moment. All of these costs just start to spiral, and that's a major downfall for me living in a flat, because the costs when you buy the flat are very different over time, and they just creep up, and it makes it very unaffordable over that longer period of time. It also means that as a leaseholder, I can't really knock down walls without permission from the freeholder to, for example, create an extra bedroom or do some major works within the property, because I'm limited by other people telling me what I can and can't do within the flat. And that's one major downfall, A, of leasehold, and B, of shared ownership. So I cannot wait for the day until I can just get a freehold house and do whatever I want to it. Build an extension on the back, knock down walls, start chipping away at the plaster, go back to brick, whatever it is. I don't have to ask for permission unless it's part of permitted development and planning permission to do a big extension. Otherwise, I don't have to ask permission to do anything inside the house, and that for me is a massive bonus of buying a freehold house. At the end of the day, if I had to weigh up whether to buy a new build or an old build, I would definitely go for the old build property. Firstly, they've got more character, and secondly, they're cheaper, and you can actually buy properties that are below market value and spend the difference in money actually doing them up, putting your own kitchen in, your own bathroom, and decorating it in a way that you really like and that you want, and making it your own home is a bit of a fun project to do on the side as well. Another great benefit is that all of that value equity increase is completely tax-free, which is something that I didn't realise when I bought a new build flat. Instead, I could have spent that money buying an old home and doing it up and actually building a bigger pot of money, because my capital appreciation in this flat hasn't really gone up since I bought it, which is a bit of a shame. If you enjoyed this video, I would love to have you as a subscriber. Just click the little red button just down below, and I've got loads of other great videos like this one on the top here, which is why I regret buying a new build versus an old build property. Or you can check this one on the bottom, which is my research and insights into the top 2021 buy-to-let areas in the UK. So feel free to check out one of these, and I'll see you on the other side.